In 1747, Gideon Dudley built a house on land that had long belonged to the Mohawk Indians. This land, shrouded in mystery and darkness, was surrounded by a dense, ancient forest that the locals called the Dark Entry. It's not just the ominous name that sends shivers down your spine. It's the stories of those who ventured too far into the woods and never returned. It's said that the woods swallow people whole, and those who find their way out are forever changed, their minds shattered by the horrors they've witnessed. For years, the Dudley house has stood as a silent sentinel at the edge of this terrifying forest. But it's not just the woods that hold dark secrets. The house itself seemed to vibrate with a sinister energy, as if it were absorbing the fear and despair that clung to the land. Visitors reported feeling an oppressive presence as soon as they approached the grounds. The air became thick, and the silence was so deep that it felt as if the forest were holding its breath, waiting for something or someone. As the years passed, more and more disturbing stories began to emerge. Those brave enough or foolish enough to approach Dudley House reported hearing anguished screams echoing from deep within the forest, screams that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Some claimed to feel invisible hands pushing them, leaving them staggering and terrified, while others reported being scratched by invisible claws. On particularly dark nights, strange orbs of light can be seen hovering just above the ground, flashing in and out as if taunting those who dare look. A particularly chilling account comes from a man who dared to approach the house. As he approached the old structure, he noticed a window with a drawn curtain. Suddenly, the silence was broken by a loud bang from inside the house. Startled, the man froze, his heart pounding in his chest. The banging continued, each louder than the last, as if something or someone was desperately trying to escape. The man watched in horror as the curtains began to press against the window frame with each bang, but he could see nothing on the other side. He fled the scene, his footsteps echoing in the quiet night, vowing never to return. Today, Dudley House and the surrounding woods are under the watchful eye of the Dark Entry Forest Society. The area is heavily patrolled by the authorities, who warn that anyone caught trespassing will face immediate arrest. But for those who have experienced the horrors of Dudley House, the real punishment is the memories that haunt them long after they have left this cursed land. In the glamorous world of 1930s Hollywood, where dreams were made and shattered under the bright lights, a star marriage promised to be a fairy tale. Paul Byrne, a respected and influential producer, was 42 when he married Jean Harlow, a 21-year-old starlet who had taken the silver screen by storm with her beauty and charm. Their marriage was the talk of the town, a glamorous union that seemed destined for greatness. But Hollywood, for all its glamour, had a dark side, one that would soon cast a shadow over Harlow House. Just 2 months after their wedding, on a warm September morning in 1932, the dream was shattered. Paul Byrne was found dead in their home, his body lying in a pool of blood. The official report stated that he had committed suicide, but the circumstances surrounding his death were unclear. The investigation was rushed, hampered by interference from senior studio executives who seemed more interested in protecting their interests than uncovering the truth. They quickly ruled Byrne's death a suicide, but rumors of foul play spread like wildfire throughout the industry. The most chilling rumor centered around Byrne's ex-wife, Dorothy Millett, a woman with a troubled past and a history of mental illness. Just a day after Byrne's death, Millett was found dead in an apparent suicide, having drowned herself in the Sacramento River. The strange timing of her death fueled speculation that she had something to do with Byrne's death, but no concrete evidence was ever produced. The mystery only deepened when Jean Harlow, the bright and shining star, died 5 years later at the age of 26. Her death, believed to be due to kidney failure, added another layer of tragedy to the already dark story of Harlow House. But even as the actors in this tragic play left the stage, the house they called home seemed unwilling to forget. The atmosphere inside Harlow House became heavy with a sense of anxiety, as if the very walls had absorbed the sadness and despair of its former inhabitants. Shadows began to linger in corners, and strange, unexplained noises echoed through the empty rooms. The house had become a vessel for the tragedies that had unfolded within its walls, a place where the past refused to be buried. Years later, the house was once again in the spotlight, this time as the home of another Hollywood star, Sharon Tate. Tate was a rising star, her beauty and talent promising a bright future in the film industry. But her time at Harlow House would be marked by an experience that would haunt her until her untimely death. One night, Tate awoke to a terrifying sight, the ghostly figure of a man standing at the foot of her bed. It was Paul Byrne, the tragic figure whose life had ended abruptly in that very house. Tate confided in friends about the encounter, describing the apparition in detail. Byrne's ghost seemed bound to the house, unable to escape the place where his life had been cut short. Tate's unease only grew as she continued to live there, feeling a cold, ghostly presence following her through the halls. As if the house itself were alive, its dark history permeates every corner, every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind through the windows. In August 1969, Sharon Tate was brutally taken from her life in one of the most notorious murders in Hollywood history. The Manson family, a cult led by Charles Manson, stormed her home and ended her life, along with the lives of many others, leading to Tate's horrific fate. a chilling reminder that the past never truly dies in Hollywood. Story 3. Connecticut Funeral Home. Today, Harlow House is a grim reminder of the fine line between fame and tragedy. Visitors often describe an eerie atmosphere, a sense that something unseen is watching from the shadows. In a quiet suburb of Connecticut, there is a modest house that once served as a funeral home and burial ground. Built in 1916, the house had served as a funeral home for decades, its walls bearing witness to the grief of countless families. But in 1986, the Snadeacre family from upstate New York purchased the property, unaware of the horrors that awaited them. The Snadeacres were a large family, and they needed a home that could accommodate them all. The house seemed perfect until they began to uncover its dark. As they settled in, they discovered mortuary paraphernalia scattered throughout the house. Coffin handles, old embalming equipment, and even a blood drain. But these grisly relics were just the beginning of their nightmare. At first, these strange phenomena were insignificant. Doors and windows opened and closed on their own. But soon the house seemed to come alive with malevolent energy. The family would be awakened in the middle of the night by terrifying screams echoing throughout the house, or by cries coming from inside the closet. The children were terrified, their innocent minds unable to comprehend the darkness that surrounded the eldest son, who was undergoing radiation therapy for cancer, began to change in disturbing ways. He became withdrawn and angry, his previously gentle demeanor replaced by a sinister one. He began writing necrophilic poetry, his words imbued with a sick obsession. The family grew increasingly concerned, but it was not until he attacked his cousin with the intention of raping her that they realized how far he had fallen. He was arrested and sent for evaluation, where he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. But the most chilling part was that he seemed to improve while away from home, only to regress as soon as he returned. It was as if the house itself was feeding his pain, pulling him deeper into madness. Unable to bear the torment any longer, the family moved away, leaving the house and its dark secrets behind. The Connecticut Funeral Home still exists today, but it remains a place of fear and despair, its walls echoing with the cries of the tortured souls who once called it home. On the shores of West Bay Lake in Wisconsin, there once stood a grand mansion called Summerwind. Built in 1916 by Robert P. Lamont as a summer retreat, the house was supposed to be a haven of peace and quiet. Lamont, who would later serve as Secretary of Commerce under President Herbert Hoover, needed an escape from the pressures of political life in Washington, D.C. The cool breezes from the lake and the serenity of the North Woods did just that, or so he thought. The mansion was beautiful, with elegant design and spacious grounds, but it didn't take long for strange things to start happening. One night, Lamont was startled by a loud bang coming from the basement door. Thinking it was an intruder, he grabbed his pistol and fired 2 shots through the door. But when he opened the door, he found no one there. Only bullet holes in the door as evidence of his horror. The legend of the ghostly intruder began to take root, and subsequent visitors to the mansion could not shake the feeling that something otherworldly resided within its walls. Years later, in the early 1970s, the mansion was sold to the Henshaw family. Arnold Henshaw, his wife Ginger, and their 6 children moved in, hoping to make new memories in the grand old house. But from the moment they stepped inside, they knew something was very wrong. The house had been vacant for some time, but it was not empty. Shadows flickered along the hallways, and strange, mumbling voices could be heard in the dark rooms. Whenever they entered these rooms, the voices would suddenly stop, leaving only an oppressive silence. The most terrifying apparition is a ghostly woman who seems to float right through the French doors leading off the dining room. She will appear without warning, her ghostly form drifting back and forth as if trapped in an endless, nightmarish loop. Windows and doors will open and close on their own, defying all attempts to keep them shut. Arnold, in desperation, hammers a heavy nail through a particularly stubborn window, but even then the strange phenomena continue. The family is tormented by the house's restless spirits until, finally, they can take it no longer. They leave Summerwind, abandoning the mansion to the ghosts who have claimed it as their own. If you enjoy these creepy stories and want to see more creepy and terrifying content, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring you more true stories that will leave you breathless. Leave a comment to share your thoughts or experiences, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of our haunting and captivating videos.